Hey there. So sticking with the theme of trying to reuse what you already have made, your leftovers, and creating something new out of it. Today I'm going to be using quinoa 4 different ways. So I've prepared some regular quinoa, and quinoa is actually a seed, it's not a grain. I think we kind of confuse it sometimes in that way. And quinoa, just by itself, can be used instead of any other grain the way that you would use a grain. So for example, rice. Quinoa can be used instead of rice. Quinoa can be used instead of buckwheat or any other way that you would use a grain. And so what I've done is I've just prepared quinoa straight out of the package, just as it said. And the one thing I did that instead of using water, I did use vegetable broth. And so I just have plain quinoa. And like I said, you can just use it any which way that you would use rice or, for example, pasta or couscous, right? So any way that you would use something like that, you could substitute quinoa instead. But the lovely thing about quinoa is that it is a complete protein. It has all of the 9 essential amino acids that a complete protein would have. And so you might have heard before that some things are not complete proteins, so you need to combine them. And that's kind of an old way of thinking, because you really don't need to combine those foods. As long as you're eating them on a regular basis, your body will know how to take from one food and take from another food and combine what it needs in order to make complete proteins, especially the proteins that your body needs, because it's taking and combining amino acids in different ways to make different proteins. But it's, like I said, kind of an old way of thinking. So people used to think that you'd have to eat rice and beans together in one meal in order to make a complete protein. And that's just not the case. If you're eating rice on a regular basis and beans on a regular basis, your body will know what to do. But that aside, quinoa is a complete protein, and so that's not really something that you have to worry about when you're eating quinoa. So one of the things that I made with the quinoa is a quinoa and cauliflower risotto. So this is the first way in which I have used the quinoa. So I've cooked it, I've put it together with cauliflower and some onion, some spices, and so it is now a complete side dish as it is. You could use it as a complete meal if you want to. I did serve it as a side dish. And so, but here's the thing that we don't really think about. We usually think about thickening our food, right? So we go from a soup to a sauce to like a chili type of thicker consistency, right? But today I want to think about something else. So I've got this thicker kind of quinoa dish, a risotto, if you will. And what I'd like to do is to take it back the other direction. So I'm going to take some of this risotto and I'm going to heat it up with some more vegetable broth, and we're gonna make a soup out of this. Because sometimes it feels nice and hearty just to be able to enjoy a warm bowl of soup. So here we go. So what I'm doing is just taking some of this quinoa and putting it into my saucepan here. And I would say that right now I probably have about 2 cups of my quinoa cauliflower risotto. In my saucepan here, okay? And to that, I'm going to add I'm probably going to start with maybe only 3/4 of a cup of the broth. So I've got 3/4 cup broth here. I'm just going to add that to 2 cups of quinoa risotto. Remember, it's got cauliflower in it. It's got onions. It's got some parsley in it. All right, and right now you can see it has a really nice kind of more liquidy consistency than the quinoa did. I could eat it just like this, with this consistency. You can certainly puree it completely. You can add more broth to it. I think that this is enough broth for me. And this is gonna make a nice, beautiful, warm bowl of soup. So I'm just gonna wait for this to heat through. This is a great way to reuse the leftovers you have, because who wants to continue to eat the same thing over and over again all week long, right? So changing it up and using it in different ways can kind of help to keep things from getting boring for you. Okay, I think it's warm now. So I'm just gonna take it off the stove. And this is what I have. I have my soup and I've put it into my bowl. And so now instead of a risotto, I have thinned it out and made it into a soup. Now I can't imagine that the flavors would have changed all that much because the risotto was really quite tasty and wonderful on its own. And I think that this is gonna be equally good. So here we go. It's hearty and delicious. And the quinoa, even though it's already cooked, really does keep its consistency. So if you don't like soups where you have to chew much, then I would say you should definitely puree it. Okay, so for the final recipe for the quinoa salad, what I'm doing is steaming some veggies. So I've got some peas, some carrots, and some asparagus, and I'm going to lightly steam them just to get them a little bit softer so that they're still crunchy, but they're not raw. And so this is what I'm doing. Okay, so in this little saucepan, I have water that is going to boil, and then as it's heating up, it is steaming my vegetables. You know, this is just an easy way to do it. If you have a steamer, you should for sure use that. It just needs about 3 to 4 minutes. So I'm just going to let it steam, and then I will combine it with my quinoa and some dressing. So now I'm gonna make my dressing, and I'm just gonna use maybe 1/8 of a cup of olive oil. And I've got about 1/4 of a medium-sized lemon here. So I'm just adding my lemon juice. I've decided that what I really like is more of like an Italian dressing. If you like prepared dressing better, you can just use whatever dressing you have. I'm just making my own here. I've got a little bit of Himalayan sea salt, some black pepper, some Italian seasoning mix, probably about 3 teaspoons. And then just mix all that together. You could add garlic also. Okay, I'm also gonna add just a little bit of garlic. Mix it all together, and I've got my dressing. So now let's put it all together. Okay, my veggies are steamed, but not too soft, and my dressing is made. And so now I'm just gonna put all of this together. And then this is so beautiful. I mean, I really love this. It looks so colorful, so beautiful. The carrots that I have in here are white carrots and orange carrots, which is the usual, but I've also got purple carrots in here. And if you want a little added crunchiness, you can add some pistachios. And if you're allergic to nuts or you don't like pistachios, you could always substitute pumpkin seeds instead. But I think I am really pretty happy with this salad. You could also use slivered almonds in here if you'd like instead. So I hope you try this recipe. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to see you back again. And if you feel like you want to continue to see these videos, then remember to click to subscribe. Thanks so much. Have a great day.